Good evening, my dear things. Welcome back to the channel. I decided to tack on two other movies to this review since I watched The Tale of Two Sisters, which instantly reminded me of The Uninvited. It seemed like a remake until I realized which one came first. Not really surprising since we tend to remake everything these days. The remake of Pulse I absolutely hated. I thought it was the dumbest story. A ghost traveling through the electronics just seemed stupid and not scary at all. Whereas the original Pulse, I actually liked it better. It wasn't as scary, but there were some creepy parts and kind of disturbing parts. And most of the reason why it wasn't that scary is I guess I'm more attuned to CGI and the traditional jump scares, which this movie doesn't have any of that, which is so traditional to American horror movies. And the ghosts didn't look like what you normally see in American horror movies. For instance, The Conjuring, for instance. These ghosts weren't really scary. They looked like normal people, but their movements were a little off, or they were in places where they shouldn't have been. So that kind of made it more unnerving and gave that kind of surreal feel. The plots are pretty similar. However, I felt like Cairo, which I just realized is what the original Pulse was called, depicted suicide, death, the end of the world, and the obsession with computers a lot better. It's a very bleak movie. There's no real happy ending. I feel like the remake lacked in so many areas and just focused on one, which is how we can't outrun computers or electronics because they're everywhere. Kind of very simplistic storyline. The Tale of Two Sisters, on the other hand, was very close to the remake, so it was hard to find differences. I also didn't remember The Uninvited until watching The Tale of Two Sisters because it seemed so familiar and I couldn't place it, so I had to look it up. And this movie is actually very close to Goodnight Mommy. I don't know if any of you have seen it. I started watching it and I quickly stopped because I don't like torture. It freaks me out in movies. But it's very similar because both movies, I should say all three movies, focus on DID, but The Tale of Two Sisters differentiates from The Uninvited and Goodnight Mommy, and how the Tale of Two Sisters has two altars, whereas in both The Uninvited and Goodnight Mommy, there's only one altar. The Uninvited and The Tale of Two Sisters are more closely linked because The Uninvited actually is a complete remake of The Tale of Two Sisters, whereas Goodnight Mommy is more of an inspiration from that movie. So the stories are very similar for The Uninvited and The Tale of Two Sisters. The plots are and lead up are very similar and pretty much the same. I did find The Tale of Two Sisters a little more confusing. It was hard to understand what was going on. I think I'd have to watch it again to fully understand it. I did learn that Jordan Peele, the creator of Get Out, Us, Candyman, and Nope, was inspired by The Tale of Two Sisters and used the inspiration for Us, which I did not know, and I thought that was kind of a cool factoid. For those of you who have seen these films, what are your thoughts? Did you prefer the remakes over the originals or the ones that were inspired by The Tale of Two Sisters? So like Goodnight Mommy, Us. Let me know in the comments what you think. I honestly prefer the originals over remakes for the most part. They tend to be better. Although there have been some remakes that I didn't know were remakes that were a lot better than the originals, so I guess it just depends on who writes the movie. Pulse and The Tale of Two Sisters, I believe, can be streamed on Amazon Prime or Shudder. And I'm talking the 2001 Pulse, not the 2006 remake. You can watch the Pulse 2006 remake on Tubi, Vudu, Pluto TV, Fossum, which I've never heard of, so I don't know how good they are, or Redbox. The Uninvited can be streamed on HBO Max, or you can rent it on Amazon, Google Play, YouTube, Vudu, Microsoft Video, Redbox, Apple TV, or DirecTV. And I think Goodnight Mommy is on Amazon Prime and maybe Shudder, but I don't know. Thank you so much for watching. I hope everyone has a fabulous evening and weekend. Take care until next time. Bye, everyone.